is it important to have a certain body type, certain size of your genitals, men or women, or breasts or muscles, and a what I would say a wholesome conclusion. And I'll offer 10 points suggesting that there is much more to see with your mind, and to expand the mind beyond having a sense of concern as to who might be attracted to who might you be attracted to, or who might be attracted to you, your body. Of course, with the number one most important awareness level of that we are consciousness, that all of these bodies are ours in this past and beyond reincarnations. These are all ours to do with, which we should. And part of it has to do with practicality, and part of it has to do with also enjoyment and physical intimacy and compatibility. But yes, number one is that we are all together on this. If you look around at people with an elevated level of consciousness, you want good for people, and you want them to have nice lives and meaningful, significant others and relations. And the term I use is the dream mate. Some people might say soulmate, just somebody who you don't have to be nervous all your life about who am I going to be with, will this person be with me, will they like me, are they attracted to me. None of that. It's just a higher consciousness of, these are all these bodies are ours, and we get to refine them and define them. And for example, you can invest. If you don't like your body, just don't procreate. Use your money, use your time to invest in the upbringing of other people's, perhaps children, and then those grandchildren that they might have might in turn end up being you. But I'm approaching it from a scientific, objective way of what type of body do you like. It's a fact what you find attractive. That's a fact in your life, and so what you want is, you want your whatever it is. And you are you. You are all that is. So let's refine our bodies. Number two, the awareness that you don't want to be with somebody unless they're attracted to you. And it's better to be with no one than be with someone who you're not attracted to, both mentally and physically. And the way you can define that is, would you give oral sex to this person? Would they vice versa? That's a big determining factor. Like, for example, you wouldn't do that with a prostitute, men or women, and so that's a good factor right there to gauge. And it's also a trick to be much more selective. You want to be more selective in life. Number three, let's say for men or women, genitals, does size matter? There's some videos online where guys will go interview some women, and with the curiosity of, but it goes vice versa. It's just as relevant how the tightness or depth or dimension of the vagina as it is the penis, the VV and the PP, quote unquote. And And so, but it's really it's something to be aware of and cognizant of. Like, women should know what they find desirable. They should use sex toy dildos to determine that what type of size they like. And also, men and women should do exercises, perhaps daily masturbation and strengthening and clenching of the sex organ muscles in order to, and like, of course, general health, but in particular, and also using like olive oil or coconut oil to massage and use healthy natural products that you want yourself to be able to satisfy yourself, and also touch yourself erotically, like before you masturbate. Don't just get right into it, because you want to set the scene and make it so you look forward to it, and that it's that you're able to satisfy yourself and not be hoping for somebody else. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're desperate or seeking another person to satisfy your urge, that leaves you vulnerable to them, that they can have power over you. So that's number 3. The understanding that you want to be with someone who there's a mutual attraction, and also realizing that there's a variety. And number 4 being that it's not about, is anyone attracted to you, like, oh, does size matter in a generic sense. No, it's this very specific sense of, is it, what would your ideal partner be? Would it be someone who, in this category, obviously you have wanted similar dreams and interests, but what are your expectations? What do you want the appearance and dimensions of their sex organs to be? And of course, health plays a role. So much so, I would say that the most attractive thing in a person is always their level of youthfulness, and size and appearance of the body is actually secondary compared to your overall skin and your health, and so there are obviously ways to take care of yourself and make your body desirable just based off of the overall appearance. And 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 number 5 is that when people ask this question, sometimes they're like, in their own private contemplative zone or realm, and they are asking, they're asking to this of, oh, I hope women will find me attractive, or I hope men will find me attractive. And there is no, in my awareness or mode of thought, there is no hoping or this and that. There's only clarity. There's an understanding of, it's not, oh, maybe that person I see when I go to the supermarket or at school, maybe they will like me, maybe they'll have interest in me. No, it's science. It's absolutes. It's, in my life, I'm going to live my life and pursue my dreams, and I'm going to be with somebody who fits this categorization. Maybe they're a certain ethnicity or other specific details about their body, their physical body. But you want to have a strong feeling for yourself, and of course, maybe question it. Say, okay, maybe I'm open to that change, but a variance. But just in general, to just have a certain confidence of, I know who I am, I know what I find attractive, and you may have heard, there are suggestions for empowerment or self-help people to, when you're wanting to find that special someone for you, write down in detail what you want, and would they also, what they would want of you. Would they would you be a good, are you ready for them, are you a good match for them? And the most important thing, of course, being number 6, is that you don't want to, you never want to put yourself in a position where you're, well, this is still number 5. This concept of hoping or wishing, that's what an animal would do. That's what the ego does. That is not what the high self does. The high self looks at a body maybe that you're in and other people's bodies, and wants good, wants refinement, wants collective progress. So, for example, I'll make this number 6. Let's say it's an extreme. Maybe your body is either disfigured or not properly made up, or maybe you're handicapped. Maybe you can't even engage in sexual activity. It really is inconsequential, because what your job will be to do is to invest in the future, invest in your next incarnation and others, because, excuse me, life is really about concepts. It's really about, let's just say for a moment that the body is is like a car. It's about, okay, what do we have to do to improve on this car? And so it's an intellectual thing. It's like, how do we, and make it a community thing too, not just battle for the fight of the fittest, and all this natural selection. No. Let's make it artificial selection, where we're maybe improving on each other's bodies by deciding as a group, oh, maybe this couple has great genetics, they can have more children. What I mean, there, of course, what I'm describing is a little to one side of the bell curve. It's like, certain things that people would do, it's not, that people should be forced to do. Everyone has their life and has their rights and freedoms. But I'm just expressing. So number 7 is specific traits, like, for example, women's, for them to have comfortable childbirth. You need certain elements in play. You need, in order to get a result. It's science. It's empirical. Maybe wider hips, for example, and a PP and VV have to be of a specific dimension in order to match completely. Like, for example, in women, they have like a different sensation spots. They have like the A spot in the end of their vagina, and so it's a question. There is a question of whether the PP will match the VV in that sense. And, like, if you really think about it, I think most people find this is number 8. Most people find each other attractive, believe it or not. Like, whether they're all the variety of body types or sex organs, I think most people find attractive. Like, for example, men and women like all different types, and like men, for example, they might not be as concerned if they the woman's VV isn't so tight, for instance, just to have a sense. I mean, of course, maybe, but people get to decide that as individuals, and it's important to realize that that's an individualized process of selection and what people do with their bodies and lives, and that the overarching thing should be marriage, the concept of marriage. And people might think it's actually lukewarm, or they use terms like maybe puritanical to wait for marriage, but I think it's an indication of self-control, of patience, and of passion, that you're not wanting to dilute your efforts and energies and your sexual desire, and you're wanting to please someone. You don't want to just give that to various people. but you want to wait for the right person so you can give them your whole soul, in the sense of, I compare it to a person wanting to maybe be sexual physically with someone. I like the idea of wanting to consume somebody's soul and just look into their eyes and hold them and be with them throughout each day in their lives. That, I think, is a more powerful or compelling force, especially with daily self-intimacy, masturbation, orgasm activation of the second chakra. Guess what happens? You go beyond that desire, and you start to seek a more advanced level of connection and interaction with the world, the universe at large, and in particular the person. So that what I'm saying is, the ego might think that, it wishes you had a certain body, or it wishes that, it hopes that this and that, but at a higher level it should be more organized and more scientific in terms of what love is, and it should be a question of compatibility and also commitment to each other and your dreams. And number 9 is to, like I was stating earlier, to feel good about people. Like, let's say, for example, you see people and you think they have desirable traits, and then, maybe they're wealthy or they're healthy, and etc. Instead of being, see, this is the mistake I think people make. They feel they're envious towards a person, but I don't actually think that's envy. I think what happens is, if you see a person misusing their body, abusing it, using it to seduce many people, or engaging in promiscuous, lukewarm, diluted, non-committal activity, antisocial activity, where it's all about animalistic competition, then guess what? That's offensive. And it's not that the fact that they have a nice body. If they had a nice body and were with a spouse and maybe filmed erotic films and posted them onto the internet for others' artistic enjoyment, then great. That I think would be great. But and so it's not really about, there's no such thing as an envy of body or wealth. It's just, it's all it is people feel they're misappropriating that and not properly using what they have. And so I think we're at number 10. And what, as a conclusion, I'll just suggest that, when you hear in society maybe jokes about does size matter, or that lady has big breasts, generally it's not appropriate, except in special circumstances, like referential purposes. Like here, I'm formally making reference to this in a scientific method of and sociology and psychology of being wholesome and healthy, and also practical about the way you approach the human body and the collective groups of people in the world, and the simple reality that it's a serious thing, and it's not really something to be talked about casually. And often when people say things like talk about sexual matters, relationships, or their body or others' body, or they say, or maybe, for example, a man or woman say, "Oh, I want a woman with a big ass," or a woman says, "I want a guy with a large pee-pee." It's like it doesn't really, it's their personal individual preference. And it's when people talk like that and they perhaps dress more revealing, whatever it is, usually it's an act of competition or aggression, or wanting to make people, it's usually intended to generate a negative and very objectifying, reaction of, they're just seeing it as a body and not a person, not a human being. People are not, even though the bodies, we can look at it and say, how can we improve it for the future, in the same sense as you would a car. You can't just in public and in social settings talk about certain things like that, because it's the body, it's sacred, and so these are my thoughts, and I think this is a higher way of approaching, and a more true way of approaching, and respectful, being able to look at people and just look at them and want good for them, instead of wanting to desire or seduce them, or feeling envious or whatever. I've expressed all the my reasoning here. Thanks for listening, and comment.